Eric here. Apologies, I might not be able to pronounce the other's name, so I will just call
No
you
problem.
Mr. Eric. Hope that's fine.
No
Yeah.
problem.
Thank you very much, sir.
Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Masweneng Mokolwane Eric from Panama Village in Sekhukhune East District, Limpopo Province, South Africa. I have requested to start earlier on, and the comments will be later after, as there will be load shedding or power outage in 14 minutes' time in my country. And once there's power outage, we lose all the network connections. So let me try and be very quick and ensure that I at least cover a lot of what I prepared before the power outage starts to do. Now, I will start by introducing my presentation based on the theme. And given that, I want to tell you that in order for us to build a global perspective and a global classroom, we should understand that a 21st century classroom represents a global village. A classroom is a diverse presentation of the broader world. Learning and teaching should promote global citizenship and international education. We need to consider local realities, the context and the challenges as educators. We also need to understand or have a broader understanding of the world as educators. We need to support students to engage on both local and international community. We should also be aware that teachers may have a strong sense of the local context, but at the same time may lack global awareness. We also cannot build a global perspective without becoming aware of the strengths and weaknesses of our current practices as educators. Now, in developing a global perspective, we need to look at different aspects such as professional development, how our system need to develop us professionally, change in teacher classroom practice, how we engage with our classroom practice every day. We also need to look at change in student learning outcomes. So this also talks about the effect that we as educators are bringing into our learners. We also need to look at change in teacher beliefs and attitude, because without change of attitude and belief system, education cannot change, education cannot progress, our results and our outcomes cannot come as we are planning them to be. We also need to develop a teaching methodology that is quite inclusive, that is quite accommodative, and that is quite diverse. Now, implementing a global classroom is relative to inclusive learning, as per the Sustainable Development Goal number 4. And in this regard, we need to create inclusive learning environment. Curriculum should also be designed inclusively. Advanced teaching training should also be taken into effect. So meaning that our government or our governments also in the world should make sure that our teachers get better training so that they'll be able to treat our learners inclusively. They'll be able to know and work according to the challenges of their context. Now, teachers should always believe in students' ability to learn, so that we might be able to make them better learners. We might be able to instill confidence and self-esteem in them. We need to reduce pedagogical barriers to learning. We also need to provide enough teaching materials which will enhance learners to control their own learning. We need to develop methodologies and mediation strategies within our teaching and learning strategies. We also need to diversify language as a medium of instruction, because language is one of the most important aspects that might become a barrier within our learners. We need to also integrate information and communication technology so that we can make our learners global citizens. We also need to be considerate to different cognitive levels of our learners. That is all that we need to do in order to implement a global classroom, which I refer it as related to inclusive learning. Now, we also can create a global perspective and a global classroom by being considerate of the universal learning design. In other words, learning should be accessible to all learners. That is the requirement of Sustainable Development Goal number 4. We need to cater diverse needs of all learners. We also need to be inclusive in content delivery design. We also need to differentiate curriculum content, teaching methods and assessment methods, because we also need to be aware of the different cognitive levels of our learners and how our learners learn differently in different ways and methodologies. We also need to accommodate and differentiate learning styles. I'm going to show you this in practically on what I'm doing in the classroom in the following slides. Now, we also need to be cognizant or take into cognizance multiple intelligence approach that we as teachers need to apply in our teaching. Curriculum should be differentiated. We need to respect and welcome diversity. We need to accommodate all types of intelligence within our learners. We need to create inclusive learning environment that acknowledges 8 forms of intelligence, which is verbal, logical, naturalistic, interpersonal, visual, musical, kinesthetic, and interpersonal. I'll be very quick because the time is running out. Now, we can also build a global perspective through principles of African philosophies, the principle of Ubuntu, which is seen in the attitude and practice of the policy framework through which respect, empathy, accountability, responsibility, compassion, unity, compromise, love, caring, and tolerance are the fruit of Ubuntu. Remember, Ubuntu, which means I'm a person because of others. The philosophy of Ubuntu is essential for an inclusive learning environment, meaning if Ubuntu, in other words, is humanity. Now, how do I build global classroom through technology in the classroom? I am using remember, with technology, we can connect with the world. We can connect with each other. We can create with ICT. We can reach out and bridge the digital divide. We can also interact with ICT and also bring possibilities in education. Now, how I build a global classroom, practically in my classroom. I am using virtual classroom debates. I am using visual consultation, wherein my learners are developing communication skills, collaboration skills, critical thinking skills. Now, communication and collaboration for discovery-based learning that I'm involved in or hands-on in the classroom. I am collaborating outside the 4 walls of the classroom through Skype, wherein I interact with a number of classes from all over the world, such as the one from Tunisia, Vietnam, Bangladesh, India, and so forth. Now, for me to create global classroom, learners are learning from their own peers. And how do I do it? I do it through debates and discussion with their global peers, wherein my learners are developing meta-cognitive skill. And they also learn the international use of English as the lingua franca. Now, what are the benefits of learner-centered teaching strategy, which I use through technology collaborations or through collaborations and technology integration in the classroom? Now, learners' voice is prioritized, which brings them to be more confidence. Their participation is increased. Teamwork is enhanced. Teaching extends beyond the classroom. Learning is no longer a solo activity. Learning is no longer a passive activity because my learners are now beginning to be hands-on. Once you engage them, you involve them in the classroom, they become more active and they become global citizens. Now, through information and communication technology, I am able to keep balance between curricular needs and different teaching style. In other words, I cater for those who learn virtually. Those who learn through doing, whereby I involve them through verbal learning style, where they do presentations every day. I also involve them in the kinesthetic learning style, especially during the mystery scribes, where they have to work together to locate the speaker or the other class from elsewhere in the world. I also use social learning style, wherein I involve my learners through debates and discussions with other classrooms. And this brings forth positive results in the classroom. Now, what are the benefits of doing this as well? This brings about positive learning outcome. They learn by exploring. They also learn by experimenting. This increases engagement. This develops different learning skills. It boosts individual performance. It caters holistic learning needs of learners, and it brings about peer-to-peer collaboration. And now my learners become confident when they engage with others. Now, I am also using information and communication technology to make sure that I bring about a global classroom, or I collaborate with other classes elsewhere in the world to make sure that my learners become global citizens. Through ICT integration, I am involving learners in their assessments to develop their own or their competency, skills, attitudes, and knowledge through discussions and interview, where I bring on an expert in the field to interact with my learners, wherein I bring other classes to interact with my learners, such as peer-to-peer discussions and interviews. Now, what are the skills that learners acquire when they are involved in these projects? They develop leadership skills, they develop collaboration skills, they develop better communication skills, they develop Now, how I encourage mutual learning in building a global classroom. I do guest teaching and exchange programs with teachers from elsewhere in the world. I invite online teachers, and this invitation is very cheap. It's cost effective because with the use of data, I'm able to travel to Cape Town, to Nepal, to Vietnam, to India, to USA, to France, through the use of technology. So in that way, my learners enjoy the vibe of being part of the world, or of being part of the global community. Now, I am also using ICT tools for educational tools, peer guidance, or exhibitions. My learners travel virtually through Skype, through Google Meet, through Zoom, through Microsoft Teams. I also run online career guidances programs, and I'm using augmented apps to travel to different places so that my learners would feel being part of the global community. Now, I am also helping learners to become global citizens. How do I do that? When we do Skype, we learn about state symbol, we learn about capital cities of other nations, we learn about national flags and public holidays, we learn about international cuisines such as this one of Vietnam and India. We also learn about dress codes and culture, and this instills the culture of global citizenship. We also learn about history and culture and different languages, such as this one of Argentina, Vietnam, and certain countries that we travel to virtually. Now, I'm involving them in the international projects such as the World Reading Aloud Day and the Hour of Coding. And this builds connection. When we do Reading Aloud Day, I am trying to make sure that we build connection between spoken and written words. And this builds confidence to my learners, or into my learners, to become better persons in society, become confident person, and this skill that they carry forth will be taken into the work field in the future. This strengthens their vocabulary and fluency. Once they interact with their counterpart, once they read to their counterpart globally during the World Reading Aloud Day, they develop fluency, they develop confidence, and that is what we need. Now, when we involve them in the art of coding, they develop higher level of thinking and computer science skill, which is the 21st century skill that we need, and that which every learner in the world needs to know. And now, what are the barriers to building a global perspective and classroom? Number one, absence or inadequacy of resources. That is a global phenomenon. Public resistance to change, pace and the scale of change, size and complexity, risk aversion and accountability, technical barriers, professional resistance and heritage, and absence of capacity and organizational learning. Now, this brings us to the end of my presentation. And thank you so much, because I was trying to come out of wrap time, because now it will be over. I know in 2 minutes or 3 minutes, the electricity will go off and I'll be offline. Thank you so much, and may God bless you. I appreciate the opportunity, and thank you for everyone who is taking part in this project. And thank you for Rita Aguila Gonzalez, Bons noches.